This video is about how I quit my job while I had 3 kids, 2 mortgages, and I was the sole source of income for our family. And I did not have any other jobs or income opportunities lined up after I quit my job. So, this is going to start with a little story time.
Oh, fine. All right.
This story begins way back when I was about 21 years old. So I had just transferred colleges. I guess I was 22 years old. I had just come home for the summer from college, and I had just started working, and I was living at my parents' house, and I had basically no expenses at all and was making 10 whole dollars an hour. But because I had no expenses, I actually had quite a bit of money, and I needed a car. My car that I was driving at the time was breaking down, and I needed another car. And so I went out car shopping, trying to figure out what to get. Ended up going and buying a Volkswagen Passat Turbo. I loved it. It was everything that I had wanted in the car up until that point. It was by far the nicest car. It was $15,000, and payments were around $500 a month total. I was really happy with my car, and I was making plenty of money, and everything was good. And I probably was not very conscious of saving. And so I worked through the summer like that, had my car, and then school came around, the fall came around, and I started going back to school. And I was expecting to have hours, but it did not work out the way that I thought. I basically ended up with almost no hours working. And so I quickly ran out of money and realized that I was not going to be able to afford the payments on the car. And I started freaking out that I'm going to go bankrupt when I'm 22 years old and all this kind of stuff. That was a little overreacting, but anyway, it really did scare me. And I ended up getting bailed out by my parents and my grandma. They both loaned me $2,000 to $2,500, somewhere in that range each, because I had to sell my car at a loss, and then I had to buy another car, which I bought this $2,000 10-year-old Toyota Corolla or something that was in okay condition, but not that great. And that experience really shook me, and it taught me that I need to be in control of money, but I didn't know anything about money. I hadn't been taught anything about money my whole life. So when I got married, about a year and a half or 2 years later, I realized, hey, we really need to get this money thing under control. And so we went to the library and we checked out a stack of books. I mean, it was a huge stack of books, and they were all the personal finance books we could find. And we started looking through them, and some of them were okay, and some of them didn't really resonate with us. But one that did was called The Idiot's Guide to Getting Rich. And it wasn't really about necessarily getting rich, like get rich quick. It was just all about personal finance from A to Z. And it was it just fit us perfectly. It was exactly what we needed to read. And they showed all sorts of charts that were really convincing and really cool about how if you save just a little bit extra money and invest it in 60 years, you're going to have so much more money, or 30 years, I can't remember how much. And it really changed our mindset about money and purchasing the things that we wanted to buy, because we basically switched from, hey, we're going to buy everything that we can possibly think of anytime we want, to, do we need this right now? And if we don't, then perhaps we should wait and just not buy it right now. So anyway, so we started off our married life. We got an apartment, and that apartment cost $475 a month, and it had a washer and dryer and a kitchen and bathroom and everything. It was a full apartment, and it was a 1-bedroom, but it was a really weird layout, and it was in an alleyway near downtown Reno behind some sorority houses. And we started off our marriage with about $6,000 worth of debt between the two of us. And after our first year of marriage, we were both going to school and we were both working part-time. We had $12,000 saved in the bank after our first year of marriage, which was incredible to us. It felt so good. And it means that we had actually saved $18,000 because we had paid off $6,000 of debt and saved another $12,000 on top of that. And I can't express to you how, I mean, it's bad to say that it's so comforting, like money is so comforting. You know, we're sleeping on our bed full of money. But it was really, really cool, because it was like this game that we were both playing together, where our question was always, hey, do we need to spend money? Can we do this cheaper? I mean, one of the things we decided, we're not going to go see any movies in the movie theater. If we ever want to see a movie, this was before Netflix, by the way. If we ever wanted to see a movie, we would go to Walmart, we'd go to the $5 DVD bin and just buy the DVD for $5. And then we'd watch it, and that served 2 purposes, because number one, we were expanding our movie collection, and number two, we got to see a new movie and not pay for movie theater prices. And if we wanted, we'd look for free festivals and things to do at the university and all that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, and we really budgeted when it came to food, but obviously the $475 a month rent helped a ton. And so anyway, we carried that mindset with us through the end of college and then into business school, which I did for 2 years, where we spent, in the 2 years of business school, we spent about $34,000. And we were on some government benefits because neither of us were, that was a full-time job for me, and Megan had a baby, and so we did have some help during that time period. But really, we spent $17,000 a year. We had one car the entire time. It was a cheap old car that we had already paid off, that we had since we were married. It was a '99 Nissan Sentra. And we just did things very economically, which was a huge blessing because we did have a couple of economic issues come up, like the IRS telling us that we owed $1,800 for our taxes that we had done 2 years before, and all of those kinds of things. So that was kind of a shock and not a fun thing, but it was fine. It worked out just fine because we had the money in the bank to pay for it, even though we didn't want to. And yes, we also did take out student loans to pay for the tuition and to have the $34,000 to spend, because we didn't actually have that. So we did end up in quite a bit of debt after business school, but we still lived really cheaply. And so what does that have to do with quitting my job? Well, after business school, I got a job, went to work, worked for 5 years at a corporate job where I was making pretty good money. But still, we kept this saving mindset, and it was hard to save money because we were living in Folsom, California, which is a relatively expensive place. Our first house payment was $1,800 a month, and that was one of the least expensive houses that we could find. It was a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and it really finances felt tight for us all the time. But having said that, we still saved, and we paid for life, we paid for necessities, but we really just tried to always ask that question: is this a necessity, or is this a want or a need? And so we made it through, and I want to show you a couple of things. What's pretty cool is we started tracking our personal finances long time ago. So we're going to log into Mint, and I'm going to actually show you. All right, so this is Mint, and this is basically showing you our net income for the whole time. And the actual figures are very incorrect. I don't know how it has us earning in 2011 we earned $119,000, which is just completely untrue. It's just that they double count a lot of things and they do kind of a weird job with stuff. But the point is the net income, which typically ends up being relatively accurate. So in 2010, you can see we saved $2,450. In 2011, we spent $286 more. 2012, we actually spent $8,700 more, and somehow in 2013, it only has 44 transactions. That is bizarre. Something happened with our 2013. Shows us 4,000 above. The point of me showing this to you is not to talk any specific figures, but to let you know, we were skimming by. I mean, we were doing okay, but we did not have a lot of excess income versus our expenditures. And honestly, we had a growing family, and we had, we bought a new car during that time frame. We paid cash for a 10-year-old GMC Yukon. Actually, I think it was an 8-year-old GMC Yukon, which was a fantastic car, and we loved it. But anyway, so we were not in a fabulous income or financial situation when I wanted to leave my job, when it was time to leave. And let me just see if I can show you assets. Okay, so let's just say that that's accurate. So in 2013, when I left Intel, we had about $18,000 in the bank, which is great. I'm not knocking that. I know that for a lot of people that is a lot of money, but we were spending, let's say, $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. So that's roughly a third of a year's worth of expenses, so about 4 months worth of expenses. And I completely quit a cushy corporate job. So the big question is, how did I do it? And I will tell you there are two big divisions in my mind of how I did this. One was the internal: how did I get the courage to do it, and how did I have the confidence and the faith that it would work out? And then two is, what are the exact steps that I took to do this? And first of all, it all started with internal stuff. Around 2010, actually, I was not enjoying being a corporate employee. I was not enjoying where we were living, and while life was good, and I don't mean to complain, I mean, there were a lot of factors that were going on, but I truly was not enjoying the life that I was living, and I wanted to make a big change, and I didn't know how. And I started to seek out different kinds of books and just all sorts of different things. And so I'll actually post a link to a video of a bunch of books that helped me and why they helped me, and it'll walk through. And I started to work every day while I was driving to work. I started to practice either meditating, not obviously with my eyes closed, um, but either meditating or focusing on what it really was that I wanted in my life and trying to be grateful for everything that I had. And I am a really big proponent of the school of thought that says if you want something, you need to envision it and imagine that you already have it. And you need to do that with positivity. You need to be very to sink it into your emotions to feel that it's already there. And that really puzzled me. It was how do you say I don't have the money that I need, or I don't have the job that I want, or whatever the case is, I don't have the relationship I want, but I'm going to imagine that I already have it, and I have to feel like I have it right now. And it's almost like deluding yourself in a way. It's a really strange concept. But the way that it worked out for me was I envisioned it like I was marooned on a desert island. And I knew that back at home, I had all this stuff that I wanted. It was mine, it was in my name, it was there. I just didn't have it right now. It wasn't with me right now. And I wasn't necessarily sure when I was going to get off this island or how, but I was quite confident that I was at some point, and that when I got home, that stuff would be there waiting for me. And so I could sit there and let's just imagine that it was an island where I had plenty of food and good shelter, so I knew I wasn't going to die on this island, and it's just a matter of time before somebody's going to find me. So that's sort of how I imagined it. Another way to think about it is if you are driving, let's just say you're on a family vacation, you're driving to Disneyland. You know you're going to Disneyland. There's no question in your mind. You're not at Disneyland right now, but you might as well be there. It's not like, oh, I wish I could go to Disneyland. I don't really know. You're like, no, I mean, I'm not at Disneyland now, but I am going to Disneyland. Disneyland is an inevitability in my near future. And that's another way to think about how you focus on exactly what you want and imagine that it's yours already. So I did a ton of work with that. I listened to audiobooks and podcasts and all sorts of things. And really, if I could just boil it down to something, it would be faith and gratitude. Those two things were the two biggest drivers, the two biggest internal changes that I tried to make was be grateful for absolutely everything, whether it seemed good or bad to me. Everything in my life, be grateful for it. Everything. Absolutely everything. Second, have faith that it is going to work out. And I did a lot of internal searching, and it was interesting because I actually have a journal entry where around 2010, I started writing and I said, man, I do not like how things are right now, and I really want to leave Intel. And I had this strong feeling that said, get to January 2013 and you can leave and it will be okay. And I ended up leaving sometime in June or July, I can't remember. So internally, that's what I did. Now externally, what did I do? Well, over the course of time, as we had been scraping by, we were trying to be smart with our money. Again, remember, we had read a lot about personal finance, and the housing market was extremely low. So it seemed like a really good idea to buy a house, which we did. We bought that house, and it was $1,800 a month payment. We ended up refinancing it and got it down to like $1,650 or something. It was still a lot. And then but we didn't really want to stay in that house, and we wanted to move. So we rented it to a friend of ours, and we moved in with some family that we have that we still have in that area. And they were so kind to let us stay there rent free, which saved us a ton of money and really helped us get ahead a little bit financially. And actually, that's probably why you saw our net worth, our assets go up right here. I think it was right around this time. Yeah, I think it was during the year of 2011. We ended up living with them for like 10 months. And so that really, really helped a lot. And so then we're like, okay, well, we can't live in our family's basement forever, although they're really nice, but we've got to do something. What are we going to do? And Megan said, why don't we buy a house? And I said, we can't buy a second house. That's crazy. She said, well, let's just look. So we started looking around. We found this house. It was a 1,500 square foot house. It was 60 years old, but it was in great condition, right by a really nice elementary school, and it was $165,000. And that was a great deal. So we ended up going through and talking to lenders, and we found out we can and all of this stuff. And so we ended up having a second house, which was cool. It was a little scary because we're renting out the one house, and we definitely couldn't afford to pay two mortgages for maybe a couple of months worth, but not that long. So anyway, around the 2013 timeframe, when I wanted to quit my job, the housing market had finally gone up to where things were. I think we bought our first house, and then it actually went down from there, and then it had gone up, and it got a little bit better. And so we decided to sell the first house that we had bought. We sold that first house about 9 months after I quit. We knew that we had it, but we had just collected a bunch of money together and then just taken the leap. And I did have an idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to make an informational website, but it didn't end up making me any money, even though it did teach me a lot of things, which was good. And so the interesting thing, now that I'm thinking, I was telling you the exact tactics that I used. And what we did do is we did go on government healthcare because I legitimately was trying to start a business and did not have any income. So, and after a few months of trying and not really making any income with a website, I did look back and I said, okay, I'm trained in finance and corporate finance. I have all these skills. Maybe I should start looking. So I contacted recruiters and I did some interesting things with, basically just the crazy part about it is there were a lot of what you could call coincidental or fortuitous things that happened where I got a little contract work which gave us some extra money, or I found a short-term job, or I learned about a new technology and then found a way to contract with somebody to do consulting for that technology. And then even further on, I mean, there were just lots of things, I guess, that came into play that helped us out. And then when we did sell that house, we got a nice influx of cash, which helped us keep going. But I would say that the biggest thing that helped us was frugality and faith. And strangely, living a very alternative lifestyle where we decided, hey, we're going to sell the house that we're in and move overseas. And then we ended up living with family for a while and decreasing costs like that. And I'm extremely grateful for that. But the hard thing is when I say that, a lot of people say, oh, okay, I see how you did it because you had a house to sell. Or, oh, okay, I see how you did it because you lived with family or whatever. The fact of the matter is that that is a false way to think about it. First of all, I suffered through for years with a job that I did not like. And before that, I didn't have any money, but I went to school for 2 years and educated myself in a way that would qualify me for a job that would make more money. And then I did that job for 5 years without enjoying it. That's thing number one. Thing number two, during that whole 5 years that I was working, we did not buy a lot of toys. We did not buy new cars. We did not go on tons of vacations. I think we went on one cruise and then we went and visited people overseas. That was like our big vacation that we ever did. And yes, we did a lot of smaller vacations that weren't as expensive. We would take road trips or we would go camping or something like that. But we lived within our means that whole time, which enabled us to take advantage when the market was low and buy 2 houses and then later on be able to sell them. So if you look at life from any one snapshot and you say, oh, how did you do that right now? You can't say that. You can't even answer that question because how were you in the position right now to pull the trigger on what it is that you did? Well, it's because of all the things that you did in the past. And I cannot emphasize enough the patience that it took to stick with a job that I really didn't like for a long time. And there were a lot of discussions with Megan, my wife, about what we're going to do and what I can do and how this is going to work. And life is a very individual thing. Things don't work out the same way for everybody. But truly, the gratitude and the faith, and then the patience, and maybe I'll have to do a video on listening to your positive inner voice in terms of guidance and direction, because while I say that I made a lot of choices that were smart, and I did, I can't account for the fact that we found a house for $165,000 in California that later was going to appreciate, or that that I got a job offer randomly, even though I was completely not qualified according to what was listed on the requirements of the job, but I just threw a resume at it and ended up getting the offer and all those kinds of things. I really honestly cannot tell you exactly how those things happened or how it's going to work for you or anybody else. All I know is that life is a series of events that all somehow work together to create what you have. And no matter what it is, I mean, I have wanted for a long time millions of dollars. I've wanted to do all this philanthropic work and just have houses in multiple countries and have maids and all these kinds of things. And those desires of mine have been frustrated for over a decade. And even I can get frustrated sometimes that I didn't go into different career pursuits because some people make so much money in medicine or in technology or something like that. And it's crazy. But at the same time, your life is what it is. And you are where you are. So the only thing that you can do is move forward from wherever you are right now. And how do you know what to do to move forward? Well, that's the positive voice. I mean, where do your wants come from? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. Why do I like the color blue? I don't know. Why do I like to do my hair like that? I honestly, I don't know, and I don't think anybody really does know why a person does what they do or likes what they like. It's just how life is. So, anyway, that is the main conceptual map of how we did what we did. I think I will leave it there, and that's it for now. Okay, see ya.